All right. I think we have a good amount of people in, and I'm sure people will still be filtering into our meeting as we move forward. But I think it's a good time to get things started this morning. I want to welcome everybody again. Say good morning. We're excited to have you at the business meeting portion of our 2020 virtual annual general meeting. We hope that you're all safe and healthy, and we miss being able to see everyone in person. But we really do appreciate you taking the time to join us virtually as we celebrate 30 years here at AgScape. We launched our year of celebration with a video release on Monday this week, where some of our longtime supporters shared their memories and favorite AgScape moments. So I hope everybody was able to see that. And if you didn't catch it in our email that went out, it can also be seen on our YouTube channel and through some of our social media channels. But in addition to that, keep an eye out because this was a compilation video, but we're going to be sharing some of those individual videos in full form with with some of our longtime supporters' thoughts on, their involvement with the organization and their excitement for where we've been and where we're going. With that, this year's theme is Thriving in a Changing World. That celebrates our 30th anniversary of leading agriculture and food education in Ontario, as I mentioned, and reflects on the flexibility and adaptability that AgScape has embraced over time. Despite the shocking impact that COVID-19 has had on us all, we met 2020 full of determination and resilience, and we're excited to showcase how we adapted and what we learned from our mentors, both in the field and from educators in the classroom. Bringing together members and key supporters today is important, and more important today and this year than ever as we take a hold of 2021 with optimism and innovation for the future of our industry. I think that's another thing that this past year really showed, the innovation that our sector can really display when it comes down to it, and we need to make quick changes. And we're excited to inspire the next generation with stories, the stories that have happened over this past year and over those 30 years we've been an organization. So just a little bit, I wanted to go over some housekeeping items before we get started to ensure our virtual experience today is as smooth and seamless as possible. And if you joined us last week, these will look fairly similar, but for anybody just joining us this week, if you could please keep your cameras off and microphones muted for the duration of the event, that would be great as it gives us time to spotlight some of our speakers and share some of those presentations so that everybody can have a good view of those. For the best general viewing, if you're on your desktop, click the view button at the top right of your screen and select gallery from the drop-down menu for any time during the presentation. And then if somebody an individual is giving a presentation, if you select side-by-side speaker view under that drop-down menu, that's your best option. You'll be able to see the slideshow and that particular speaker during that part of the presentation. You can also adjust the size of the screen that is being shared by a presenter by going to the View Options button and selecting Zoom Ratio to make changes there. If you have questions or comments on the presentation or your technical experience, please use the chat feature by clicking on the speech bubble located at the bottom of your screen. Our staff will be monitoring, happy to help and sharing any questions with our business meeting presenters. If you could include, if you haven't already, if you can include your name and along with your question, that'll help us to respond to you more directly. If there's anyone you'd like to connect with directly, that being said, there's a direct chat feature in the chat box, which I'm sure you're all aware of if you've used Zoom before, and you can use that drop-down menu to select the contact you'd like to get in touch with. General motions will be held throughout this session, and for the majority of the polls, they'll be collected anonymously using the Zoom platform. These polls should pop up automatically on your screen in a new window, but if they don't, you can access in the menu at the bottom of your Zoom window. There should be a poll option. For our board elections today, however, we will be using Mentimeter software. Again, votes will be collected anonymously, and the votes here will be shared. In order to vote here, there will be a link shared in your chat window that you'll need to click on to cast your vote. click on that link, you'll be taken to a new window in your browser. And just a reminder that if you are voting today, you must be an AgScape member, and only one individual from each member organization may vote. If you have to leave early for any reason, but still have some questions about today's event, please feel free to contact us and send any questions you might have to info@agscape.ca, and myself or our team will get back to you as soon as possible. This session, and just a reminder that this session is going to be recorded and will be shared following the event. So just a reminder for everyone that that will be happening. If you'd like to join the conversation about what's happening today and share with others, we'd love for you to join us on social media at #AgScapeAGM21. And that hashtag is going to be shared in your chat window too, to make it even easier for you. As I'm welcoming everybody today, I wanted to thank everyone again for joining us. And in particular, as we're celebrating our 30th anniversary milestone this year, I also wanted to provide some special recognition for our life members and thank them for their contributions. So those include Denise Edwards, Sandra Forsyth, Carolyn Firth, and Lorraine Holding. Thank you so much for being with us all along this journey. As an organization, we would also not be here today without the forethought and hard work of our founding members and board members. So you'll be able to see some of those individuals up on your screen right now. We are grateful to be where we're at now and know that we wouldn't be where we are now without these individuals. Thank you. Now, without further ado, I'd like to call on Kathryn Doan, our board chair and a champion and ambassador to our cause for many years, to introduce our special guests for today.
Thank you, Taylor. I'm excited to be here today to celebrate with all of you, our supporters, and the achievements that have helped us to accomplish over the past years and many years before. AgScape has been very grateful to have the support of partners such as the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs for 30 years. We appreciate their commitment to our common cause of agriculture education and attracting young people to careers in the field. And we are grateful for their support that has helped us to achieve. That's why I'm honored to be introducing our first special guest today, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, Ernie Hardeman, to bring greetings to AgScape's AGM. With a long-standing connection to agriculture and rural affairs, Minister Hardeman has been the owner and operator of his own feed supply business, the mayor of the township of Southwest Oxford, and a board member for the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, as well as a champion of agriculture and food in our legislature. We are grateful to have him as our provincial representative today. Please welcome the Honorable Minister Hardeman.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Kathryn, for the kind introduction and the invitation to AgScape's 30th anniversary. I did in the opening remarks, I heard earlier about the challenges we face because of COVID and not being able to hold these meetings in person. But I think it's also, I think it's positive to look at the positive side of things that happen to us in life. And one of those is that I believe, now, mind you, I've been around for 30 years, but I haven't been involved with AgScape for those 30 years. But I think it's fair to say that this, because of it being virtual, that this is likely the first time I've been at your annual general meeting. And so again, those are the positive things. We can't communicate quite as what should we say, as people-like as we used to, but we can communicate with each other and with a lot more people in shorter length of time. So, and there is some positive sides to that. I also want to ask Kathryn to make sure that the turkeys are doing okay, are they?
Absolutely. Thanks for checking in on the turkey industry. We always appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much. And I want to thank you for your ongoing work to promote agri-food literacy and careers to our students across the province. Now, more than ever, Ontario youth needs to know how their food is grown and made. Your Teacher Ambassador program provides many great resources that help teachers and students learn about farming and food processing, including careers in agriculture and the agri-food sector. Ontario students need to know about the dynamic career opportunities that exist in Ontario's agri-food sector, providing more than 860,000 jobs across the province. Ontario's agri-food sector is growing and developing all the time. We need our youth of today to be the leaders of this important sector tomorrow. That's why I'm pleased to announce the Government of Ontario is investing $400,000 to AgScape to keep those tools and programs flowing into our schools. Now, I want to recognize the unique ways that AgScape has adapted to online learning in our schools. This includes the early launch of the virtual camp experience. The virtual camp is a great way for parents to keep their kids learning while away from the classroom. And with many interactive options for students to explore food and farming topics, you make learning so much fun. I do appreciate your deep commitment to the agriculture and food education. And I thank you for always finding creative ways to teach kids, for developing innovative tools that reach the next generation of leaders of our province. As you reflect on another difficult year and plan your path forward, I wish you all the best for the upcoming years ahead. And I want to say personally and on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture and Food and Rural Affairs, congratulations to one of all over the 30 years, the people who started, and particularly to those charter members, shall we say, that you mentioned earlier, Kathryn, and or whoever did mention it. I want to say thank you, because obviously you've come a long ways. And as you look back, I expect a lot of people that are making the organization work today are people that were learned from the organization and the good things that the organization, that AgScape, did in the schools when they were in the schools. And so thank you all for what you do for the agri-food industry. And thank you very much for having me today. And we wish you all the best in the next 30 years. I'll end my presentation with just saying I do most of my presentation this way. This is one thing about our farming community. It doesn't matter how bad a year we've just had. When we see the first sunshine in the spring, we can't wait to get out into the field to get our crops planted once again, because we are all convinced that this will be the best year ever. So, and I think we are looking forward to that again this year. And I hope that at the end of it, we can say that we actually accomplished it. So thank you very much for having me with you this morning.
Thank you so much, Minister Hardeman, for your time and inspiring message. We really appreciate all of your support and are grateful to have you as a champion of agriculture and food education in our legislature and our province for the last 30 years of support that we have received from OMAFRA. We appreciate your message today, and I hope that I will see you in Oxford County soon, obviously from a local perspective. I'll now pass it over to Jennifer Kyle, Vice Chairperson, to introduce our next special guest.
Good morning. I have the pleasure of welcoming our next guest for today, someone who has been an active part of the rural, agricultural, and leadership arenas for much of his working career, and someone who I had the pleasure of getting to know through my time in the Advanced Agricultural Leadership Program. Working with the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs for 15 years, he was also the manager of the Ontario Research and Development Challenge Fund and president of both the Ontario Agricultural Hall of Fame Association and the Wellington County Historical Society. He is a former executive director of 4-H Ontario, as well as a past executive director of the Rural Ontario Institute. With close involvement in a number of leadership programs, such as Junior Farmers, he credits his involvement in these programs with enabling him to develop the skills that have ultimately led him to his current position in the Senate of Canada. Please join me in welcoming the Honourable Senator Rob Black to the screen to share some greetings.
Thanks very much, Jennifer. And good morning, Minister Hardeman, Kathryn and Taylor, and AgScape members and friends. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning and to join you for your annual general meeting. I want to acknowledge that at this time I do live in Wellington County, and so I'm joining you from Wellington County, which is the traditional lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Six Nations. First and foremost, congratulations to the AgScape team on 30 years of hard work and dedication to Ontario's agriculture industry. On behalf of many advocates here today and joining us and around the province, thank you for your continued commitment to enhancing the visibility of agriculture in the eyes of young Ontarians. As has been mentioned, I spent 15 years with OMAFRA early in my career and long before I was appointed to the Senate of Canada. And at that time, OMAFRA had started Agriculture in the Classroom, the precursor to AgScape. In fact, I represented OMAFRA when AgScape, when AITC teachers went to Washington, and I joined them in June of 1991. I believe I traveled with Roger Boyd and Les Asselstein and Andre, and for the life of me, I can't remember Andre's last name. But it was a pleasure to represent OMAFRA at that conference. AgScape and other Ag in the Classroom programs across the country have the important job of empowering students and educators with accurate, balanced, and current curriculum-linked programs, resources, and initiatives focused on agriculture and the food industry. I must say, it has been a real pleasure watching and witnessing the development and continued success of this organization and the programs you deliver. It's so important for our future generations to understand that our farmers work hard to produce good food. As a parent and grandparent, I speak from experience. Kids need to see for themselves that our farmers care about the land and for the animals and the crops they grow. And it's critical that we help them understand that there is so much more to learn about agriculture in our community and around the world. I think this pandemic has certainly made Canadians more interested in learning about where and how their food is grown, which is great news for those involved in our amazing agricultural industry. In fact, food connects us all to agriculture. And during this difficult time when our world is constantly changing, it's more important than ever to inspire the next generation to care about the food they eat, where it comes from, and the farmers who grow it, and how it got to their plates, because we do eat 3 times a day. I'm proud to say that the team at AgScape has stepped up to that task and continued the work to support youth across the province, encouraging them to seize opportunities and highlight the agricultural sector throughout these very uncertain times. Since the COVID-19 pandemic began, I've spoken in the Senate chamber on a number of occasions about the challenges that rural and agricultural regions are facing across the province and across Canada. And I continue to push government to support our communities. I've also written to numerous governments numerous ministers about issues facing rural Canadians, such as affordable and reliable broadband, the development of rural transit infrastructure, and the importance of accessible health services, among many other matters. In fact, just yesterday, I rose in the Senate chamber to highlight AgScape's 30th anniversary and the great work they've accomplished over the years. So I hope it's comforting to know in some way that someone in the Senate understands the importance of agriculture and rural in Canada and will keep fighting for you and for the future of our communities, the organizations and industries that make up rural life as we know it here in the province of Ontario and across our great country of Canada. I must say that I am proud of rural Canada for its resiliency over the past few months and indeed over many years, and I'm confident that our communities will emerge from this COVID-19 crisis stronger than ever. This past year has certainly been one of the most challenging times to navigate, especially in our agriculture and rural communities. Despite its many downsides, though, the pandemic has given us reason to re-examine our priorities, develop backup plans, and ensure that we're ready for anything. While we continue to adapt to the new normal, it's important to also recognize the progress that has been made and is being made and the good work being done within our communities by the people and organizations like AgScape. It's also critical that we continue to take opportunities such as this meeting and the week preceding it to check in with one another and continue to grow, learn, and become more resilient in the face of challenges. Before I wrap up, I want to say thanks to the minister and OMAFRA for the wonderful announcement that you made earlier during your remarks, Minister Hardeman. Your support of this organization is tremendous. Thank you very much. And so thanks again for the invitation to join you today. I look forward to the day when we can all get together again and gather to celebrate the wonderful suite of AgScape programming. Until then, stay safe and be well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Black. As a product and an advocate for the strong education and leadership we have in this sector, we are grateful for the passion you bring to the Senate in being the voice of agriculture and food. I'm a true believer of building on connections, and we sincerely appreciate the support and the energy that you give us as an organization to keep our momentum moving forward and developing. So thank you very much, Senator Black, for being with us today and bringing greetings.
Thanks very much.
Good stuff. Before we continue with the AGM, I'd like to share our agenda today. I would also like to give special thanks to P&H Milling Group, our broadcast sponsor, for bringing you the live portions of our virtual annual general meeting, including this event today. I'd also like to thank our Platinum members and all of our AGM sponsors, and you'll see them listed here. As we've shared in our virtual AGM video and our previous live sessions, it's been an incredible year in achieving our shared goals towards the vision of a world where the agri-food sector is recognized as a vehicle for positive social, economic, and environmental impact. I can't emphasize our gratitude of all of the support from our donors during these times. We know there are new issues that we face, and the challenge of getting our youth and educated interested in engaging in agri-food persists. But with your support, we successfully navigate this past year. We continue to stay on the leading edge of educational change and provided over 400,000 engagements in agriculture and food education to students across the province and engaged over 5,000 teachers in ways that will continue to make offerings scalable and sought after. This type of impact over 30 years is no small accomplishment. It's a milestone that has been achieved through the incredible community that has helped to build organizations that is now AgScape, an organization that's focused on honoring and sharing the innovation and opportunity of our amazing sector. Without all of you, we would not be here where we are today, sharing the incredible successes that we had in 2020 and looking to the new and innovative impacts and opportunities we have planned for the future. So much as our virtual AGM is about communicating AgScape's impact, it's also about celebrating you and this journey that we're on together. This is why this year we're very excited to launch an amazing new resource in the form of Feeding Innovation podcast, which will bring students and teachers even closer to the incredible work happening on the ground to support our industry, grow it, and as a result of people like you that we will continue to partner with. With all of that being said, it's time to take a look at AgScape's team. So much what this all points to is that AgScape's team is built on the many years of history. But I'm now proud to introduce our board of directors who have demonstrated their commitment to the cause over the past year. Starting off, Jennifer Kyle, Vice Chair, Jennifer Pert, Treasurer, Audrey Baumeister, Past Chair, Megan Cameron, Victoria Berry, Jim McMillan, Charlotte Mallet, Steve Roche, Teresa Van Ray, Carolyn Solomon, Caitlin Larmer, Catherine Mailer, Carmela Capella. Ladies and gentlemen, our 2020 AgScape Board of Directors. Now I'd like to invite Taylor back to the screen.
Sorry, was having some technical difficulties there. Thank you so much for
Not a
bringing me back to
problem.
the screen, Kathryn.
Not a problem, Taylor. Thank you so much. And we really are appreciative of the board of directors. And if we were all together, we would probably do applause together. So maybe we should take a moment and just appreciate the time and commitment of all of these individuals.
Definitely. I want to echo your sentiments and say a huge thanks to our board members. We wouldn't be here today without them, and we wouldn't be here today without our amazing staff. So as Kathryn mentioned, I just wanted to take the time to introduce our staff members who helped to make the impacts possible over this past year. And with that, we have our Finance and Operations Manager, Sharon Bowes, our Program and Resource Manager, Mercedes Unwin, our Marketing and Communications Manager, Jordan Sloggett, our Fund Development Manager, Sarah Smith, our Digital Content and Data Administrator, Sherry Budrum, our Program and Resource Assistant, Cassie Brunsfeld, and our Project Assistant, Shauna McQuarrie. 2020 was a time of transition and opportunity for our team. No one can question that. And despite that huge shift and transition, our team rose to the occasion. The great impact and growth that you've heard about in our AGM updates shows just how amazing this team is, and I am grateful to have them on my side. They are adaptable and agile, and it really shone through. Additionally, their professionalism and expertise at delivering creatively during this past year was inspiring for me. I'm so proud of the team that we have here today, and I look forward to another incredible year ahead. Now, to begin and move forward with the business portion of our AGM, back over to Kathryn.
Great stuff. Thanks, Taylor. It's time to get down to business for our meeting. First on our agenda is to approve the minutes of last year's annual general meeting. First, let's go and take a look. Remember that only members may vote, and please keep an eye out for the poll window that should pop up and be shared shortly via Zoom. I was just taking a look there to make sure that we had that, so check that out. Members should have received a package, a copy of last year's minutes in their business meeting package, and it was distributed last week. If you didn't receive the email, the link will be shared in our chat window now with access to the email and links to download the materials. Are there any errors or admissions and any business arising from the minutes? If so, please comment in the chat window. Hearing none, I will now call for a motion to approve the minutes of the 2020 annual general meeting. If you would like to make a motion, please add the comment in the chat window. Who will so move? Caitlin Larmer is the mover. Seconder? Seconded by Megan Cameron. And as I mentioned, we'll be carrying out the votes for our motions anonymously through the Zoom polling software, and that window will be popping up shortly. I've now asked our staff to share the poll, and we will be displaying it here, the anonymous results on the screen following our vote. Remember, only AgScape members are allowed to vote on AgScape business, and only one individual from a member organization may vote. The results should be posted. All in favor? Carried. Excellent. Now it's time to move on to our financials. To do that, I'd like to ask our AgScape treasurer, Jennifer Pert. to join us.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure as the treasurer to be presenting the financial report once again. This is my third year of treasurer, and I sincerely enjoy working with all the staff to move this organization forward in the right direction. 2020 was a year of extraordinary unpredictability for many organizations, including AgScape. AgScape made proactive adjustments to its business model early in 2020 to adapt quickly to the ever-evolving situation caused by this global COVID-19 pandemic. Staff worked remotely, all programs were redeveloped for virtual delivery, and from a financial perspective, the budget was reviewed regularly for efficiencies to help achieve program delivery targets and long-term sustainability goals. A big thank you to our stakeholders who helped to support us through 2020. Our impacts this past year would not have been possible without you and your ongoing support. Your contributions allowed us to be successful in adapting to virtual program delivery and helped provide much needed cash flow through some very challenging months. OMAFRA continued to be a strong partner of AgScape's, providing 27% of our overall revenue, while our investments continued to perform strongly throughout the year. New in 2020, we accessed the federal government's emergency wage subsidy program to assist with our monthly cash flow needs. AgScape's sustainability goal was met with an overall operational net profit of $35,939, including unrealized gains in our reserve fund and efficiencies enacted within our expenses. We finished the year with 10 months of funding in our reserve fund while still successfully keeping up with program demands. Overall, our expenses were down from 2019, reflecting the challenging and changing business reality that faced us in 2020. Throughout the year, AgScape refocused its expenses on programs as we moved to a completely virtual format. This investment paid off as we hit the ground running early in 2020 and continue to find efficiencies and ways to reinvest in our programs. Our full audited financial statements are available on our website at www.agscape.ca. With that, I will now invite our auditor, Nanette Bechet from Hogg, Shane & Scheck, our accounting firm in Toronto, to present the 2020 financial statements to all of our members.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to address you today. I believe we would, oh, there we go. Just waiting for the financial statements to be shared. Perfect, thank you so much. My name is Nanette Bechet, and I am your assurance partner at HSS. It is my pleasure to go over with you today the audited financial statements for 2020. We'll go through these at a high level, and I would be happy to take any questions at the end, of course, that are relevant for the audit. We'll begin on page 1, which is actually, I believe, the 3rd page of the document. Please, thank you so much. So that's the independent auditor's report here. It is a qualified audit opinion that we have issued, which is a clean audit opinion, except for one very simple matter around the completeness of revenue, as there is simply no audit test that we could have performed in 2020 to gain sufficient assurance that all the membership fees and all the donations that were meant to be received were actually recorded in the books of the organization. We could only test what was on the books. You may recall that last year we actually issued an unqualified audit opinion. And for 2019, the AgScape team was able to put in place controls over the incoming money that we could test and rely on. For 2020, for the majority of the year, because of the pandemic, physical distancing requirements, the working from home, a very significant shift, these controls, of course, and understandably, and like so many other organizations that were impacted in this way, those controls couldn't be maintained. And so we're back to issuing the standard audit qualification standard for what charities receive typically in the sector. Otherwise, we had no issues with the audit that would result in any further qualification, and we concluded that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the figures for the year ended in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for not-for-profit organizations. Moving to the statement of financial position, if you will, please. Thanks very much. So that's where we'll see the assets, the liabilities, and the net assets of AgScape as at December 31st, 2020, compared to the year before, 2019. And you'll see that total assets increased by about 71,000, which was not a significant increase, but increased nonetheless. It's primarily seen in the investments line. So the second last balance there under assets has gone up. And that is largely due to the net surplus and the investment income that we'll see in the next page. Total liabilities are up from last year, about $36,000. Most of that is an increase in the bank indebtedness balance of about $64,000, and that's due to the timing of cash outflows and inflows from funding sources and when program expenses had to be made. So this increase, though, is offset by a decrease in deferred revenues of about $42,000, and that's again due to timing difference and more funding received for the Agriculture in the Classroom Canada program at the end of last year that had not yet been fully spent by the end of the year compared to 2020. And note 6, and I do invite you to read through the notes at some point. Note 6 provides a breakdown of what's sitting there in deferred revenue, which is funding that you've received or membership fees you've received ahead of time that will be applied in the following fiscal years. So after we take into account the assets of about 1.6 million, made up mostly of investments, and liabilities of about 208,000, which are comprised largely of bank indebtedness and deferred revenues, we see that the net assets of AgScape are at 1.4 million, or just shy of that, as at December 31st, 2020, which is up from the prior year, and which is largely held in the Healthy Eating Program Fund and the Internally Restricted Reserve Fund. So a healthy financial position to carry you through and continue to carry you through the uncertainty that we all face, continue to face at this time. Turning to the statement of operations, which shows the revenue, expenses, and the net results for the year. Now, you've already heard revenue and expenses are down slightly, but if you start at the bottom of the page, so if we could scroll down a little bit, please. Thank you so much. You'll see that AgScape had a net surplus of about $36,000 this year compared to $151,000 last year. Now, both this year and last year, the surplus is very much impacted by investment income. And so if your eye travels up a few balances up the page, you'll see that there's the other investment income of about $91,000 this year compared to $198,000 this year. And that has a large part to do with the surplus. Traveling up the statement, you see that the net assets from the net results from the day-to-day operating activities was actually a deficit of just under $25,000 compared to a surplus last year of $15,000. And you'll see that revenue, again, you know revenue was down about $152,000. Most of that was due to a decrease in the timing of the OMAFRA grant funding in 2020 compared to 2019. So as one funding period came to an end at the beginning of 2019, there was a gap of a few months, and then another funding period began near the end of the year. And so it's really great news to also hear the confirmed funding going forward from OMAFRA. It makes such a huge difference. This decrease, though, this year was offset. You heard that AgScape was able to access some government assistance under the COVID-19 wage subsidy program, and you'll see that on its own new line this year, about $74,000 or $75,000. And that government assistance, we're really grateful for this program for many organizations, was also very important for AgScape to be able to continue through 2020 and not experience an even larger loss from operating activities. On the expense side, again, you heard expenses were down, and almost every single line is down from last year in terms of each of the program costs that are shown before you there. And all of that is largely driven by the pandemic, reducing in-person learning and costs associated with that, as well as marketing activities, and AgScape very successfully switching to online delivery of its program. That's really it on the statement of operations. If we move to the statement of cash flows, which is 2 pages down, you will see that there's a net decrease in the cash balance of about $21,000 this year. And now, although AgScape had a net surplus for the year, which we saw on the previous page, a portion of that surplus was just a gain in the investment value just a gain on paper, just depends on where the market is going and what the value of the investments are at year end. And so it's not actually an increase in cash, some of that balance. And so about $35,000 was used by cash by operating activities. And that's that balance there in the middle of the page that says cash flows used by operating activities. 50,000 went towards increasing the investments balance during the year, and about $64,000 was needed from the operating line of credit to help support cash flows. And so those are the main changes that contribute to the net end result of a net decrease of about 21,000 in the cash position for 2020. Cash is something that is carefully managed by the AgScape team to ensure that there's sufficient cash flows to fund ongoing operations, but also maintaining the reserves for the future health and sustainability of the organization. That's all I wanted to go over with you this morning. I do invite you to read over the notes to the financials, like I mentioned before. They do provide really good and further information that helps further explain the figures for 2020. And I thank you. Thank you for your attention this morning. I would be happy to take any questions about the audit, and also happy to redirect any operating questions to your board or management team as well.
Thanks very much, Nanette. We appreciate your expertise and all the work that your team does, and we're very grateful for their help once again this year. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the financial statements as they were just presented? All right, well, hearing none, I will accept a motion to receive the financial statements for 2020 as presented. And as before, please move. I would ask a mover to write in the chat, please. Thank you, Jennifer Kyle, for moving. A seconder to the motion. Thank you, Jim McMillan, for seconding. We will now share another poll via Zoom, which should pop up shortly to conduct an anonymous vote to receive our financial statements. And just a friendly reminder that only members can vote. This is where the Jeopardy music comes in. And the results of the poll should be coming shortly. 100% motion carried. That's great news. Thank you. And I thank you everyone for your time and your involvement in our organization. I would now like to call Charlotte Mallett to the screen to present the nomination report for the election of our 2021 Board of Directors.
Thanks, Jennifer. As you may know, AgScape's Board of Directors is made up of 8 corporate seats and 4 community seats. At each AGM, a third of the seats are up for election for a 3-year term on the board. In accordance with our bylaws, the nomination committee published a call for nominations through several public channels. Nominees were required to submit a nomination form 30 days prior to the annual general meeting. And as of the close of nominations on April 5th, 2021, we had 2 community seat nominees to fill 2 vacant community seats and 5 nominations for 2 corporate seats. So how will we proceed? Since we have 2 nominees standing for 2 community seats, we'll be calling for a motion to acclaim them to the board. We'll be holding an election then for the 2 open corporate seats from the 5 nominees. For the election portion of the meeting, we will be using Mentimeter, so it will not be through Zoom poll. It will be through a separate link, and you'll see that in your chat box. When we are ready to call for the vote, we'll post the link for our members to follow. All votes in this way will be then anonymous, and our results can be reviewed by our 3 scrutineers. So first, I'd like to present the community seats nominees. So nominees, will ask you to turn on your cameras as your bio is read, and I will read that for you. So we'll start with Jennifer Kyle. Oh, sorry. So Jennifer is the Manager of Public Engagement and Digital Strategy at Beef Farmers of Ontario, or BFO, where she is responsible for BFO's Ontario beef public-facing brand strategy. in addition to overseeing the organization's digital communications. Jen believes the sustainability of the agriculture and agri-food sector relies on talented people from all walks of life choosing a career in ag, and that AgScape work plays a significant role in creating the initial spark of interest to send students down that path. Currently, Jen is the vice chair of AgScape's board of directors and hopes to continue on the board to help ensure agricultural education has a solid place in the classroom and beyond. With a background in public relations, communications, and marketing, she brings a wide variety of tactical communication skills, as well as a deep passion for both increasing ag awareness and creating a welcoming and inclusive industry for anyone who is or would like to be involved in agriculture and the agri-food sector. She's a passionate community volunteer, is a member of the ALP recruitment advisory team, a Rotarian, and a youth softball coach, among other community involvement with Rotary Youth Exchange, 4-H, and the Paris Fair. She and her family reside near Ayr, Ontario, where they operate a dairy, beef, lamb, and cash crop farm. Thank you, Jennifer. And our second nominee for a community seat is Jennifer Peart. Jennifer is a senior relationship manager for Farm Credit Canada in Simcoe, Ontario, and is also the co-owner of the Erie View Farms Limited, a 40-cow dairy operation with her husband. She graduated from the University of Guelph, Bachelor of Commerce in Agriculture Business in 2006. She has served 2 terms on our AgScape Board of Directors as a corporate director representing Farm Credit Canada and is currently treasurer. She hopes to continue on the board in order to share her finance and HR skills, along with her passion for agricultural education with the organization. She is also a director on the Brant Milk Co-op, a graduate of the Advanced Agricultural Leadership Program, past president of the Haldeman Norfolk Holstein Club, and past volunteer with the Norfolk County Fair. So thank you to both Jennifers for standing as nominees for community seats. I would now like to accept a motion to acclaim the 2 community nominees, Jennifer Kyle and Jennifer Peart, to our 2 vacant community seats. I'll ask that you please move in the chat. And seconder, perfect. So Audrey Bowmeister made the motion and seconded by Stephen Roche. We'll now share the Mentimeter link in the chat to conduct the anonymous vote to acclaim these positions. Please remember, only AgScape members may vote. At this time, the results will not be shared publicly, but will be reviewed by our 3 scrutineers who will share their final result of the vote with myself. The scrutineers for today are Carmela Cupelli, Business Development Specialist at OMAFRA, Sharon Bowes, Finance and Operations Manager for AgScape, and Mercedes Unwin, Programs and Resource Manager for AgScape. So we'll just give a minute for the vote results. I probably need to vote as well. Just one more minute for the results. Perfect. So the motion has been carried and there was a majority in favor to acclaim the 2 seats. So congratulations to Jennifer and Jennifer. Now we'll move on to the election process for our 2 corporate seats. So as I mentioned, we have 2 seats available and 5 nominees. For the nominees, if you're on your computer, we'd now like to offer you the opportunity to introduce yourselves and to share with us a little bit about your interest in joining the board. What we'll do is I will introduce you alphabetically by name and company. We'll ask you to please turn your camera and microphone on, and then you'll have just 2 minutes or a couple minutes to introduce yourselves. So what we'll do is we'll start with, from Canadian Mushroom Growers Association, Ryan Kosleg. Ryan, if you could unmute yourself and show your camera.
Excellent. Hopefully you guys can hear me and see me.
Yes, I can hear
Great.
you.
Good.
Go ahead.
And thanks very much for the opportunity to, I guess, be a nominee for this election. My bio is pretty well outlined in the package today too. So I did grow up on a small dairy farm outside of Clifford, Ontario, which is the northernmost part of Wellington County. University of Guelph and Olds College experience. I have a firm believer in education and continuing education. Obviously, with my first real role as executive director with the Agriculture Management Institute, where we help to develop business management skills and tools for farmers to improve their business management practices. Since then, I also now have a small consulting company myself, and with a great team, we manage 5 nonprofit organizations, including the Canadian Mushroom Growers Association, Ontario Bean Growers, the Ontario Institute of Agrologists, and the Ontario Canola Growers, along with the Ontario Agriculture Commodity Council. So pretty well networked and involved with a lot of nonprofit and agriculture groups. I'm passionate about getting agriculture better taught or increase the volume of information from farming and food systems into the education systems. And also just want to recognize recently the information that was provided by AgScape, which helped immensely for the Canadian Mushroom Growers Association for the Temper Foreign Worker Program, where you guys provided some excellent information to help offset some very biased and propaganda information that was provided. So I want to shout out and appreciate what you guys did for us there, and look to hopefully continue to echo that voice into the future if I'm elected on AgScape. So with that, I will leave it, and thanks very much.
Thanks, Ryan. Great to be able to collaborate, and thank you for your interest in joining the board. Next, we'd like to welcome Joanne Cheekchalk from Chaucer's Farms to introduce herself and her interest in joining the board. Joanne?
Thanks, Charlotte. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself. Before I start, let me congratulate AgScape as an organization delivering 30 years of service, enlightening and educating children and youth about agriculture and food. Never ceases to fail me how sometimes we underestimate what knowledge is not there. As a short bio of myself if you've already seen it, my name is Joanne Cheekchalk, and I have been actively involved in our family farming operation at Chaucer's Farms, just outside of Smithville in the Niagara Peninsula for most of my life. My family's been a part of the agricultural fabric of the province for over a century, and I had the opportunity to take up my turn in an ownership position over 3 decades ago. The farm is currently operated by myself, my brother, and my sister-in-law. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that my nephews have always been a large part of the labor pool and are now getting more involved in their own right. Early on in our farming, my best friend and now sister-in-law started a milking goat operation, which shipped goat milk to Hewitt's Dairy for several years. But 10 years ago, having matured and lost the interest of my nephews as they went on to higher education, we moved to beef cattle, sheep, cash crops, and garlic, which we thought would be less onerous on the labor staff. My academic path took me through a degree in commerce and a CPA designation, after which I worked in several municipalities in finance positions, which I then drifted from into corporate services and general administration as the CAO of Markham and then Oakville, before moving on to opportunities at the province. I now consult to municipalities and to the private sector on land development processes and development charges as my role as managing partner of West Wing Consulting Group. In local life, I spent 6 years as the chair of the Committee of Adjustments and then 8 more as a local councillor at a time when our rural community was starting to face the pressures of growth versus farmland and the imposition of things like wind turbines. I've sat on a number of boards from our local hospital and the electric utility to the YWCA and the Grand Erie Business Center, which is part of the Federal Community Futures Program. But most of all, I've locally enjoyed being part and involved in our local fair, in all aspects, from showing our animals to helping with fundraising. I've had a part in leading and growing our local 4-H organization and Marydale Children's Outdoor Learning Center. I said all this as the highlights of how I came to be me. In my professional life, I've been an administrator leading a great staff and understand how a great staff helps an organization to move forward and a great board helps that staff to move forward by just listening and doing what is asked of us. In my private life, I had a great pleasure and opportunity to witness the benefits of living in an uncongested environment that requires lots of work and dedication from a farming community to produce safe food, which people think comes from grocery stores or worst all, Costco. In my entire life, some of the lessons I remember best about agriculture were done when I was very young, and I was able to see and touch and understand how grain was ground or how manure moved down a conveyor belt. That work has already been done by AgScape starting 30 years ago by developing in-class learning, and has matured to the production of virtual and online resources, and will amazingly be remembered by a number of those children as they mature in their roles in society. You've already done so much to expand opportunities to numerous children in the urban centers to learn and understand where food comes from and what agriculture is really about. And that's what's led me to be very interested in taking up an opportunity with your staff and as a board member at AgScape. So if I'm chosen, I'm very excited to share my skills, those that I've acquired through a life of farming and administration, and to help better opportunities for children. Thanks.
Thanks, Joanne. Thanks for sharing a bit about your background, personal and professional, and your interest in a board position. Next, I'd like to introduce Anna Stewart, representing the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair. Anna, if you could give us a few comments.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and I'm happy to be here. I've been fortunate enough to meet many of you in person or virtually, and I'm excited to have this opportunity and be able to continue meeting new people and new faces and work collaboratively. So my name is Anna Stewart. I'm Features and Education Manager at the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair. 2021 will be my 7th fair, but my 5th fair at this position. So as my bio states, I am a certified Ontario teacher, and I consider myself a lifelong learner. I think that really proves it in what happened in 2020, since when events were canceled in March of 2020, we thought, oh, the Royal will be safe. We're just November. We're so far away. We'll be okay. But when everything got canceled, we couldn't even go to Plan B because we didn't have Plan B. So we had to develop Plan B in June when we made the decision. We are a small staff of about 18, and all of us had to pull together and even wear different hats. So even as the education manager, there was a lot of education involved, but also had to help with the other departments, marketing, sponsorship, technical. So we did come up with the Royal Agriculture virtual experience, which we launched in November of 2020. It's definitely not, nothing can replace being at the physical fair, but we were able to have over 25,000 registrations, and over 4,500 of them were teachers and educators. So we were really excited about that. Another success was the education symposium that was held virtually, and that's really for high schoolers, teachers, guidance counselors, and it was their focus was pathway to a future in food, which is also very important to us, and that was a success with over 140 participants. In a normal year, the Royal attracts over 12,000 students. Like I said, nothing beats a physical Royal. We are very excited to go back to a physical Royal sometime in the future. And again, I'm saying it, November seems to be a safe time away, so we'll see what happens this year. So education, it is a mandate of the Royal and our mission, and it's really close to our heart, and it is really part. We like to incorporate it and be able to expand. I've been hearing a lot of the common goals here that, you know, we need to be able to reach out and get the youth more aware of where their food comes from. So as part of the board of director, I would like to continue moving forward and also openly discuss new ideas and support AgScape's strategic plan moving forward. So wrapping up, I'm excited for the opportunity. I think together with all our different experiences and our backgrounds and where we come from, we can really do good and enhance the food literacy in Ontario schools and create awareness of the agri-food sector. So I would appreciate your support. Thank you for this opportunity, and thanks.
Great. Thanks, Anna. Yeah, I can echo your sentiments. I certainly love the Royal every year, and I can't wait till we can actually have it in person. But congratulations on all the success in pivoting, which is the word of the year. And thank you for your interest in joining the board. Next, I would welcome Megan Cameron, the representative for Syngenta, to say a few words. Megan.
Thanks, Charlotte. Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Cameron, and I currently represent Syngenta on the board of directors, having stepped into the seat in November of 2020. As my bio states, I have a bit of a unique background. I have a background in education, but I'm not an educator. And I'm working in agriculture, but I did not have exposure to agriculture prior to joining Syngenta. I kind of fell into the industry. I think AgScape is in a unique position as well. You're able to reach students who have not been exposed to agriculture and might only think of someone in a tractor when they hear the word. And to be quite honest, when I was growing up, that is what I pictured. But the programs with AgScape have the capacity to reach beyond the rural or the ag adjacent. And I think it's really important work that AgScape does in connecting the next gen general public with food and with agriculture. I heard someone say recently that, and I think they're right, agriculture is a stable industry, it's essential, and it's going to continue to need people to power it. And not just farmers. We're going to need engineers, we're going to need mechanics, we're going to need vets, financial planners, lawyers, programmers, marketers, you name it. The list goes on. And, you know, I came into agriculture, as I said, almost by accident. But if I had had exposure to a program like AgScape when I was in high school, I might have chosen the field. And so for me, a large part of why I am interested in remaining on the AgScape board is to reach those kids like me who didn't have exposure to agriculture growing up. So I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I thank everyone for your consideration.
Thanks, Megan. Great to hear. We're happy you fell into agriculture. However you get here doesn't matter. It matters that you're here now. So thank you, and for your interest in remaining on our board. Lastly, I'd like to welcome Karen Lewis from Synthesis to share a few words about herself and her interest in the board.
Thanks, Charlotte, and good morning, everyone. I'm Karen Lewis with Synthesis, and we're an agri-food communications and consulting firm based in Guelph. But I'm coming to you today from my home office in Georgetown. I'm really excited about the possibility of joining the AgScape board as it embarks on its next 30 years. I've been working in agriculture communications for more than 20 years now. I grew up in Caledon, next door to my grandparents' dairy farm. And so from an early age, I had that connection to agriculture and food, but I took it for granted, frankly. It wasn't until I became a mom myself that I really understood the vital need for agriculture in our classrooms. I have two daughters, one in high school and one in elementary school, where I'm co-chair of the school council. And so as a parent and volunteer, I've really developed a strong appreciation for the need for accurate, balanced, and current food and agriculture content in Ontario schools. And probably more recently, also developed an appreciation of the unique challenges of remote delivery of that content. In my professional life, I've developed several skills that I feel would benefit the AgScape board, from strategic planning and communications to board assessment and government assessment and stakeholder consultation. I've also developed a broad network that I can tap into to help raise awareness and support for AgScape. In the past few years, I've had the pleasure of working with Agriculture in the Classroom Canada on a few projects, and that helped me understand all the amazing stuff that is happening in this space from coast to coast. And so it's really fueled my passion for agriculture education, and that's why I'm asking for your support today. So please vote for me, Kathryn Lewis. I commit to adding great value to the AgScape board, and I'm really inspired to help Ontario students make those meaningful connections to agriculture and food, and to support the next generation of agri-food leaders. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, and cool to hear that you've had experience with our national organization as well. So that's an amazing insight. I really want to truly thank all of our nominees. You know, it's a very strong field, and we're very appreciative of you all taking your time and your interest in joining our board. We will now call for the election of the corporate seats. So our election will commence through an online poll. This will be accessed through the link in the chat. So it's not a Zoom poll, it's an online poll. So please access that link. A reminder, voting is open to AgScape members only, one from each organization. At this time, you will be voting for both corporate seats at the same time. So you should see a list of all 5 candidates' names on your voting screen. Please select 2 of those candidates to submit your vote. Again, the results will not be shared publicly, but will be reviewed by 3 scrutineers who will share the final result of the vote with myself, and I will then share the results. However, while we're waiting, we wanted to be able to share with you some incredible successes from this year. We wanted to share some slides, and you should see those on your screen now, about the impact that was possible because of people like you, and a few memories over the previous years. I think one of the best testimonials that we get to hear is the direct ones from teachers and students about the impact that the lessons and our programming had directly on them. And as we know, every lesson or every impact we have then turns into further ones, because those then can become advocates as well. So it's great to read some of these testimonials. We'll just wait a few more moments. I'll just take one more minute. Sorry for the delay, but we want to make sure everybody gets their chance to vote. I agree. We had an amazing group of nominees this year. We really want to thank each of them for their interest in being on the board and in our organization. Great. It looks like our voting is complete. So thank you for voting, and to all of our nominees for standing. The results are in, and our corporate seats will be held by Syngenta with Megan Cameron as a representative and Synthesis with Karen Lewis as their representative. Thank you again, and congratulations to all the nominees. We hope to find ways to work with each of you in the future in different ways. At this time, I need to call for a motion to destroy the ballots, or in this case, to delete the electronic voting results. Could I ask that someone please make a motion and do that in the chat? And a seconder, perfect. So we have a motion from Victoria to destroy the ballots, and our seconder is Jennifer Peart. Is there any discussion or questions? If so, you can definitely leave a question in the chat. Okay, so now we will share another Zoom poll, which you should see pop up, which would allow us to destroy the electronic ballot so that you agree. And we'll just wait for the results to come up to destroy the ballots. Perfect. Carried. So now I'd like to pass it back to Kathryn for the remainder, or for the next section of the meeting. Thank you for all of your help during the elections.
Thanks, Charlotte. Really appreciate you taking us through that. You did it very smoothly, and we really appreciate your time in organizing our election. At this time, we'd like to thank our outgoing directors from 2020. They are Farm Credit Canada as a corporate member, and Carolyn Solomon. Celebrating 30 years, we recognize the importance that each and every one of our members had success in and contributed to that success, and we are grateful for the foundations that you have helped us build. At this time, we'd also like to look for new beginnings and want to welcome Megan Cameron back as a board seat representing Syngenta, as well as welcoming Karen Lewis from Synthesis. We're also excited to have Jennifer Peart and Jennifer Kyle to continue on the board. Now I'll pass it over to Victoria Berry to review proposed bylaw changes. Thanks, Victoria.
Thanks, Kathryn. Yeah, so I'll be going over the amended bylaw, the bylaw amendments for everyone. AgScape every year in accordance with AgScape in accordance with our governance model reviews its bylaws and policies on a regular basis. And at the March 17th, 2021 meeting of the Board of Directors, a motion to amend our bylaws was approved. Therefore, we are presenting the following amendments to the membership for ratification at the annual general meeting today. The details and the notice of amendments were sent out via an email blast to membership on April 12th, 2021. So you should have received that a few weeks ago. And so AgScape's ad hoc bylaw committee reviewed the current bylaws, and we are proposing updates that reflect first, diversity with the inclusion of gender neutral terms. Second, the technology changes that have made electronic voting and electronic banking, electronic fund transfers commonplace in today's work environments. And thirdly, the inclusion of the trade name of AgScape and reflection of our more virtual work environment. So we will be reviewing all of the changes in the bylaws, and then at the end of that, be offering an opportunity for members to ask questions or comment prior to calling for a motion to approve, but we'll be bundling it all together. So I'm going to take you through it. Bear with me. Our first change is actually in the preamble and interpretation of the bylaws in section 2, with the change from masculine and feminine to the inclusion of neutral terms, and section 4 with the inclusion of the trade name AgScape. You're going to see as we go through this, we will be showcasing the existing bylaw, and then noting the amendment and changes for each one. So next, we have the change in bylaw number 2, with the change of head office of the organization to the address and records of the organization, which reflects the move to a virtual workplace. You can see that change highlighted there. This is how it will appear as we go through. So inclusion of gender neutral terms from he, she to their, they, and them. These updates are reflected in several bylaws as we went through and did the review. So they are reflected in section 4.12, 4.16, 5.02, 5.03, 5.04, 5.05, 6.05, 7.06, and 8.15. So continuing on, to reflect the change to a more virtual work environment in bylaw 8.12, we are looking to add the option of providing notice electronically. So this is the amendment as it stands, and then you will be able to see the change. If we can skip ahead to 8.12, where we're adding the option to publish information digitally through the organization's digital properties, be that website, e-blast, social media, etc. So you can see that change number 3 there in the 3rd point. With the advancements in electronic voting technologies, we are updating bylaw 8.14 to have the option of voting in person or electronically during the meeting versus in advance of the meeting. You can see that there. With bylaw 8.15, in addition to the gender neutral term update, the committee recommended the change to make any proxies valid until the end of the meeting for which they were granted versus the 1 year in the current wording. Okay. And then in 8.16, we are removing the word advanced in front of electronic voting, as we can now efficiently do electronic voting during the meeting, and we have updated bylaw 8.14 to reflect how members can vote now. Okay, and you can see the change there as it would appear. In 10.01, we've updated to reflect the use of electronic banking environments with the inclusion of electronic fund transfers and board approvals versus physical signing. In 10.04, we also have an update from accounts and books to the more current terms of statements and records. In 11.01, section 2, we are adding electronic fund transfers, and you can see that change reflected there. Now, that was a lot of changes, but really important in terms of modernization and reflecting our commitment to diversity. So I'm going to move now to see if there are any questions or comments from our attendees. I'm not sure, maybe I'm gonna look for raised hands as well. We have those. I'm not seeing any. I don't know, Taylor or Jordan, if you are seeing any raised hands. I can't see them on my screen, unfortunately.
Not on our end, no, Victoria.
Okay, wonderful. So the next thing I will do then is ask for a motion to accept the bylaw amendments as presented. I have the motion from Charlotte Mallett, and Teresa Van Ray has seconded the motion. And so we'll move ahead with the vote on accepting the bylaws. You should see it now. And then we see the results. We have 100% in favor of our bylaw amendments. So thank you, everyone. Maybe I would turn it back over to Kathryn.
Okay, so before we bring this meeting to a close, we wanted to open the chat up for any questions or new business. So any questions or new business? With none being shared, this does conclude our 2021 annual general meeting. Congratulations, AgScape, as we mark our celebration of our 30th anniversary. Thank you to each of you for taking the time out of your schedules today to support AgScape as an organization and learn about all of the great achievements. We also want to thank our generous sponsors again, as without them, this meeting would not have been possible. And for those of you looking for more information on the exciting impacts that we have achieved this past year, as well as new programs to come, please take a look at the annual general report. That link will be posted in the chat and also emailed out to each of you. And lastly, thank you to our staff. Without each of you, this would not be possible. And I know I can speak on behalf of the board of directors as well as our sponsors and supporters. Thank you to the staff members that make this happen. So with that being said, thank you for being with us today, and I will call for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Excellent. Thank you very much, Jennifer Kyle. So moved. So again, please check out the social media on AgScape AGM 21, that hashtag. Take a look at our annual general meeting, and thank you to all the supporters and for everyone being with us today. Have a great day and stay healthy.